How's it going, everybody? Smitty here, and this is Uke with Smitty. Today, we're going to cover a topic that I see a lot of people asking questions about and possibly being frustrated about, and that is how do I chuck on the ukulele? Now, some people call it chucking, some people call it chunking, and I've also seen it as palm muting. It's all the same thing. It's basically in between chords when you're playing a strumming pattern. You do this motion that is a very percussive sound that adds a lot of interesting feel and rhythm to your playing, and it sounds something like this. So I want this to be the most comprehensive step-by-step tutorial on how to chuck on YouTube. So a lot of the ones I've seen just basically show you how to do the motion. I'm going to break it down into 5 steps of chucking mastery, as it were. So step 1 is just learning how to do that motion. Okay. Step 2 is learning how to do that consistently to a rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, whatever the rhythm may be. Step 3 is learning to do that in basic strumming patterns. So we'll start with down, chuck, we'll have a couple others like down, up, chuck, up, down, up, chuck. Then step 4 is going to be doing that in slightly more complex strumming patterns, such as this. And step 5, which is going to be mostly up to you to do the homework, is doing all of that and working it into chord progressions where you're playing and changing the chords at the same time while chucking. Like. So before we get started, remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and ring that bell. And also there is a free PDF that goes along with this lesson that has the strumming patterns and things like that. There's a link to that down in the video description. And remember to check me out on Patreon if you haven't already. $5 a month gives you access to everything I put out. Okay, let's get started with step number 1. So step number 1 is learning to make the chucking sound. Duh. If you want to chuck, you got to make the chucking sound. So chucking is always going to occur on a down strum, and that is because you can only chuck and mute with your palm and strum down. That's the only way to do it. There is another technique called, muted strums where you're using your fretting hand, but we're not going to talk about that. We're doing chucking here. So chucking is always on a down strum. And the way you do it is this. Take your ukulele, put your palm down on all 4 strings, down over either the sound hole or closer to the bridge, up to you. You don't really need to do it up here onto the fretboard. Okay, so find where's comfortable for you, where you would normally strum. Let your palm down on the strings, and you don't need to press really hard. You just need to do it to where they are muted. They're not making any sounds like this. So put your palm down and then use your other hand to strum all the way up on the neck. If you hear any like that, you're not pressing hard enough. And if you hear that, you're pressing way too hard. So you need to find that sweet spot for how hard to press. Okay, second step is take your index finger, fingernail, once you have the strings muted on your palm, and usually the sweet spot for me for strumming is right where the neck meets the body, right about here. Everybody's a little different, but that's my preference. So you take your index finger, fingernail, and you press down, strum down rather, through all 4 strings, right at that point while your palm is meeting the strings. And you should get a nice sound like that. That's where the name comes from, chucking, chunking. It sounds like chuck. Okay? So once you can make that sound consistently, there's no open string, there's no you're pressing so hard that when you press so hard you get that. You don't want that. You want this. Once you can get that sound consistently, we are ready to go to stage 2. Okay, in step 2, we're doing that same motion, same sound, but we're doing it consistently into a rhythm. So you want to be able to do it consistently where every time it sounds good and not sometimes it's great and sometimes you mess up and have an open string, sometimes you miss it, things like that, okay? So we're just going to practice basic 4/4 time, and we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So get your palm ready, get your finger, index finger ready, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It sounds really simple, sounds maybe overly simplified for some people, but the issue is some people can do it on some strokes, but they'll mess up on the other. So I want you to be able to make that sound consistently. That is step 2. Okay, going on to step 3. Now we're going to start having a little bit of fun. All right, so for all of these, until we introduce chords, we're just going to, chord progressions, we're just going to be doing a C. Okay? So we're going to start with some very, very simple strumming patterns. Ultimately, you don't get up there and do this when you're playing ukulele. You work it into strumming patterns. That's the whole point. The whole point is it's adding a very interesting rhythm, emphasizing and accenting certain beats. So we're going to make the C chord. We're going to go into our chucking position, okay? And we're going to play the chord, and then we're going to chuck. So we're going to go down strum, chuck, down strum, chuck, down strum, chuck, okay? We're going to do 4/4 time, down strum, chuck, down strum, chuck. Ready? Strum, chuck, strum, chuck, strum, chuck, strum, chuck, strum, chuck. Okay, so that's our first very easy strumming pattern. The next one we're going to work it into sounds a little bit more interesting. That sounds a little boring. For most songs, you probably don't want to sit there and go over and over. You want a little more variety. So this one is a little bit more complex, but still, I would consider it a very simple strumming pattern with chucking. And that is down, up, chuck, up. By the way, in this strumming notation I use, X is chuck. If you haven't figured that out, D is down, U is up. Pretty simple. So we're going to say down, up, chuck, up. Down, up, chuck, up. Okay, ready? Down, up, chuck, up. Down, up, chuck, up. Down, up, chuck, up. So if you get that one, you have a pretty cool sounding strumming pattern. If you're at a pretty beginner level and this is the first time, you might be pretty happy with that and say, great, I can stop now. Great. You can add that into a lot of awesome sounding strumming songs. F, C, G7. Alright, but if you want to master chucking, you got to go on to the next step, and that is step 4. Now I'm going to show you guys in step 4 how to work this into more complex, more interesting sounding strumming patterns. So I'll give you 3, okay? First one is down, down, up, up, chuck, up. Now if you know the island strum, which is a very, very popular strum that can work in so many different situations. It's down, down, up, up, down, up. This is that same thing, but we're going to chuck on the last down strum. So it's down, down, up, up, chuck, up. Down, down, up, up, chuck, up. Down, down, up, chuck, up. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. More complicated, more interesting sounding strumming pattern with a chuck, and that is down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Down, up, chuck, up, down, up. And you notice this is just down, up, over and over, but one of those downs is a chuck instead of a regular down strum. So let's go through that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Down, up, chuck. Freebie strumming pattern that has a chuck in it, and that is down, down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Down, down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Down, down, up, chuck, up, down. Down, down, up, chuck, up, down, up. Alright, if you made it this far, congratulations. You can chuck, you can do it in rhythm, you can do it to a very simple strumming pattern, and a couple more complex, more interesting strumming patterns. Obviously, once you get this sound down, the possibilities are endless. There's an infinite amount of ways you can incorporate that into your playing, into your rhythm, and it makes strumming so much more interesting. So, the 5th step is more going to be on you to do the homework, and that is being able to do all of this with chord changes, okay? So obviously most songs are not just going to be 5 minutes later you're just playing the same chord. They're going to have different chords, they're going to have chord changes, and if you're new, maybe those in and of themselves are, those chord changes themselves are baffling you and it's taking time. But In the fifth stage, this is when you're comfortable not only chucking, but you're doing it in a song with chord changes. So we're going to do C, F, C, G7, back to C. Okay? This is really just a matter of getting comfortable with the right hand technique of chucking. The more comfortable you are with it, the less you have to worry about it, the more you can think about chord changes, singing, you know, all the other things that go into playing. Okay? It's really just a matter of muscle memory. This is one of the most important things about learning any technique on the ukulele, or any instrument for that matter. It's basically just muscle memory. You look at someone playing really fast, and you think, oh, that's impossible. No, it's not. It's really just a matter of, my fingers have done that so many times, I don't have to think when I do that. And I built my way up to that. And there's people that I watch that are way more talented and more advanced than me, and I say, how is that possible? I have to remind myself, it's just a matter of muscle memory. If you do it long enough, you can figure out how to ingrain that motor pattern from your muscles and your fingers into your brain. It's a matter of muscle memory. It sounds trite, but that's the truth. So the more comfortable you are with chucking, this is a right hand technique, the less you have to worry about it. Eventually it's like riding a bicycle, you don't even think about it. You know, you can ride your bike without your handlebars, you know, on the phone, whatever. You're not thinking about it because it's so ingrained into your body. That's how chucking can become for you. And then when you do that, playing is a lot more enjoyable because you're not, I have to do, no, you're not thinking about it. It's just kind of an automatic expression of your body playing the instrument. When you get to that level, playing the ukulele becomes so much more fun and interesting. So this one is on you to do the homework, but we'll do a little bit of practice with a very simple chord progression, C, F, C, G7, okay? And we're going to do the last strumming pattern we did, which was down, down, up, chuck, up, down, up. So let's get started. So there you have it, guys. Those are my 5 steps to chucking mastery. And I really believe that someone who is struggling with learning and frustrated, if you go through those steps and you take the time and you put in the energy, you will ingrain that motor pattern into your brain and into your fingers, and you'll be able to do it. And it'll be like riding a bike, and it's so much fun. It's so much more enjoyable to play when you can add in rhythm rather than just regular strums. It's one of the things about the ukulele that's so fun, is all the interesting rhythms and patterns you can add in. And so I really encourage you to spend the time, ingrain that in, it becomes muscle memory, and it's so much fun. It makes your playing, it really opens up a whole new avenue of things you can do on the uke. So thank you guys so much for watching. As I said before, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. And you can check me out on Patreon. I have a $5 a month, 1 tier. It gives you access to everything I put out. Really appreciate you guys so much for watching. Thanks so much, and I will see you guys next time. Happy chucking.